4. We have 16 items for original consideration. If the clerk would please read item number 1.
Item number 1 for final consideration. An ordinance creating a special assessment district on a portion of North College Street.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 2.
Item number 2 for original consideration. An ordinance amending City Code Section 93-6 entitled Civilian Police Review Board to modify the manner of appointing vacancies to the Civilian Police Review Board.
Discussed in committee without objection and on consent. Item number 3.
Item number 3 for original consideration. A resolution calling for a public hearing on the Central Parkway Sidewalk Improvement Project Plan D.
Discussed in committee without objection and on consent. Item number 4.
Item number 4 for original consideration, a resolution setting forth additions to the community benefits agreement between the City of Schenectady and West Yard Properties, LLC, dated February 15, 2024.
Roll call by Mr. Toro. Item number 5.
Item number 5 for original consideration, a resolution amending Resolution 2022-224 to reduce the amount of additional funding commitment for Young Women's Christian Association of Schenectady, DBA YWCA Northeastern New York, to secure required financial commitments.
Discussed in committee without objection and on consent. Item number 6.
Item number 6 for original consideration, a resolution amending Resolution 2022-224 to reduce the amount of additional funding commitments for the Electric City Food Cooperative Incorporated to secure required financial commitments and the time to secure required financial commitments and time to secure such commitments.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 7.
Item number 7 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a utility easement agreement with the City of Schenectady Industrial Development Agency.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 8.
Item number 8 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the sale of a garage on Bailey Street for $5,000.
Discussed in committee without objection and on consent. Item number 9.
Item number 9 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the sale of 737 Bailey Street for $45,000.
Discussed in committee without objection and on consent. Item number 10.
Item number 10 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the sale of a vacant lot on Daniels Avenue for $10,600.
Discussed in committee without objection and on consent. Item number 11.
Item number 11 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the settlement of a claim by Niagara Mohawk Power Corporation, DBA National Grid.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 12.
Item number 12 for original consideration, a resolution appointing Renee Bradley to the City of Schenectady Board of Assessment Review.
Roll call by Mr. Toro. Item number 13.
Item number 13 for original consideration, a resolution recognizing Holly Pagua.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 14.
Item number 14 for original consideration, a resolution recognizing Pearl Tucker Hunter for her service to the community.
This item will be taken out of order, and I will present it to Mr. Tucker Hunter. Item number 15.
Item number 15 for original consideration, a resolution recognizing Sylvia Jemison for her service to the City of Schenectady.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. It will be presented to Ms. Jemison at her party on March 28th. Item number 16.
Item number 16, under contract and supply, a resolution awarding the bid and contract for the 2024 heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, maintenance, and repairs.
Discussed in committee without objection and on consent. If there's no further items to come, there's no further items to be come before the committee, I ask for a, oh, I did that one. So I ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Mudavarian, second by Mr. Williams. All those in favor? Aye. I'd like to call the Schenectady City Council to meeting to order for Monday, March 25th, 2024. And I'd ask Reverend James Konecki to give us the prayer invocation.
Heavenly Father, we turn to you in this time of new life and hope. As the earth reawakens from coldness and darkness, grant that we too may come to see your way of life and goodness, light and warmth. Aid us in perceiving the smallest indicators of growth, so that through them we may strive for communal growth. You have bound us together in a common home in our city. Cause justice, truth, and peace to triumph in our community. Wipe away the tears of those who are suffering, and illumine us as we strive to walk your way. Amen.
I'd like to call on Councilmember Williams. Thank you. If the clerk could please call the roll.
Mr. Toro? Mr. Farley? Mr. Mancini? Mr. Mutaverin?
Present.
Ms. Patrick is absent. Mr. Williams?
Present.
Ms. Porterfield?
Here. We have one out-of-order resolution recognize Pearl Tucker Hunter for her service to the community. This time, I'd ask Mr. Mutaverin to take the dais. There she is. Come on. I didn't have to call her up. If there's someone who wanted to take pictures, you can't do it. If you can't get it from there, you can come behind here. It's up to you. May I have the floor?
Please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Welcome. You're welcome. So this resolution is recognizing Pearl L. Tucker Hunter for her years of service to the community. Whereas there are people who have found ways that they can make a significant impact on their communities and do not do so for attention or glory, but for the most humble notion of making the world a better place. They are, most likely, among those of the dearest, most respected, most admired, and most cherished people in the communities they serve. Pearl L. Tucker Hunter is one of those people. And whereas Pearl L. Tucker Hunter has been doing things in Schenectady County since she moved here with her 3 children in the early 80s. She's built great friendships with a lot of people during that time. And whereas Pearl is also known for being able to handle herself, which led to her 3 B's jobs: bailiff for the Schenectady Police Department, bailswoman for Law, Order, and Justice Center, LOJ, and bartender at the, at the 548 Mason Club. And whereas today, many people know her from working 17 years at the Sikkim Food Pantry, and to this day, operating Pearl's Closet at Sikkim, which provides clothing to those in need. Pearl meets people where they are and does not judge them for their current conditions. And whereas Pearl is a member of Mount Olivet Missionary Baptist Church under the leadership of Pastor Horace Sanders, where she serves on the usher board. She does so much for her church and community. When someone needs help, people say, "Call Pearl." She always answers the call, organizes a team of people to help, grabs her bag of supplies, and shows up. And whereas currently Pearl is still doing what she loves doing, and that is helping others, whether it's cooking for someone, taking them to the market, or helping them at family functions. And whereas this quote from George Bernard Shaw embodies how Pearl L. Tucker lives. I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community, and as long as I live, it is my privilege to do whatever I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die, for the harder I work, the more I live. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Schenectady City Council and Mayor Gary R. McCarthy do hereby pause in their deliberations to recognize and thank Pearl L. Tucker Hunter for her years of continued service to the community and to acknowledge her recent celebration of 70 trips around the sun and wish her well in all her future endeavors. So I'd like to move the resolution. I'd like to move the resolution.
Can I have a second?
All those,
All in favor? Aye. The motion is
Thank you.
passed. Congratulations.
congratulations.
I just want to thank everyone. I'm just overwhelmed, but thank you, because what I do for God. And if anybody's at my door, don't matter when or what time, I'm there to help them. God bless everyone that's in this room today. Amen.
Can we take a picture with the resolution? Open it. Oh. I'd ask for approval of the minutes from March 11, 2024. Moved by Mr. Mudavera, second by Mr. Farley. All in favor? Aye. If the clerk would please read any communications and petitions.
Communications presented to the City Council from Monday, March 25th, 2024. Under Official, from Mayor Gary McCarthy, a list of appointments dated March 25th, 2024. Under General, there was an email from Mabel Leon stating that she strongly urged you to approve and support the resolution for a ceasefire in Gaza.
Can they hear you?
I don't know.
Just summarize.
An email from Mabel Leon stating that she urges the City Council to support a resolution for a ceasefire in Gaza. She also wants to support the downtown Schenectady Electric City Community Grocery and establish a controlled grocery store to serve the downtown area of Schenectady, which at present has no grocery store. Under petitions, there were none.
Thank you. There are several people that signed up to speak online, and you'll be heard during city business unless you're here for something that is on the consent agenda. Pastor Amari, if you're still here, I know that you signed up for something that was on the consent agenda, but so if what you want to speak on is on the printed agenda, that does not count the resolution that many people have come for, then we'd ask you to speak at this time. There was also someone that wanted to speak on the Electric City Co-op. You would be speaking during this particular time, if you signed up. Who do you have signed up? Okay. Oh, good Lord. Okay, all right. Well, who is all of this is city business? Whoa, okay. Well, the first person I have actually is Elizabeth Walsh is first.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being partners in opening the community-owned grocery store in downtown Schenectady. I want to thank all of you who came out. Could I see a standing of...
Please address your remarks this
sorry.
way. Thank you.
Sorry. For folks who came out in support of the co-op, I'd love to see a standing first of current board members and then past board members to be able to stand up. And our larger member-owner community, would you please also stand up? On behalf of all of us and our 1,030-plus member owners and growing, thank you. We have a lot of work to do together, and it's really exciting to keep this incredible momentum going. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Reverend Amari. Thank you.
Good evening. I rise in support of several items coming to your consideration. Item 05 on reducing the amount of additional funding committed to the YWCA. Item 06 on reducing the amount for additional funding committed to the Electric City Food Co-op. Item 14 in recognizing Ms. Pearl for her service to the community, and we just did. Item 15 on recognizing Ms. Silva Jimmison for her service in the city. Several of these items across among themselves weave these themes: solidarity, cooperative development, community resilience, and collaboration. Ms. Pearl's service to the community has always been distinguished by a commitment to dignity and compassion for all God's children, especially to those who make up the Hamilton Hill community. Ms. Jimison's service to the city has been recognized in support of community development and resilience, and providing timely guidance and committed support to process and success of projects. Our partnership with the YW is one of the many testimonials of their ability and capacity to be a space of dignity, solidarity, and resilience to everyone who participates in their programming, from children's and childhood development programs to women who can begin breathing safely and with the opportunity of a new start. And the Electric City Community Grocery has been many years organizing the community to tackle an issue that is impacting most of the population of the city: how to have self-determined, resilient, reliable, responsive, and representative development that can be forged by, for, and with the people who reside in this city. A yes vote on these items will encourage solidarity, cooperative development, community resilience, and collaboration in the singular way Schenectady knows how. And the larger community is watching. The Hamilton Hill Neighborhood Cooperative is committed to finding ways to encourage these values in the Carver Center. A call for peace to all residents of Gaza and for the hostages held by Hamas, including their liberation, encourages these values. The challenge, however, is to make these decisions in support of the singular way Schenectady knows how to be community. My hope for everything that will be said tonight, for the decisions that are made by this council, is that they seek to sustain and encourage the profoundly beautiful and complicated diversity of our beloved city. Beauty and complexity cannot be legislated, but well-thought policies and processes that truly seek the voice of the broad community can encourage and sustain diversity, solidarity, peace, resilience, and cooperation. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Rick Mausert.
Thank you very much for allowing me an opportunity to speak tonight in support of Electric City Food Co-op. It's always easy to go last here, I guess, maybe, if I am last, I don't know. But anyways, we really appreciate the support you've given us in the past. We encourage you to support our mission going forward and support the resolution to give us just a little more time to push this across the finish line. I've had the opportunity to join the board about a year ago. One of the skill sets I bring to a very skilled board is that I had the opportunity to work at Price Chopper for 41 years. And before I did that, I worked for Honest Weight Food Co-op for 6 years. So I have a little bit in the food knowledge business that will help us push this across the finish line, as I said. And we are working very closely with Metroplex, who's helping us on this endeavor, and some of local developers that have past successes in downtown Schenectady. And we think this would be a wonderful community endeavor, not only for our co-op, but for the entire city of Schenectady. And we very much ask for your support tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kimberly Gonzalez.
I think I'm tall enough. All right. Thank you so much. I guess, yeah, I'm last or second to last or whatever. Thank you so much for having us here. I'm going to speak a little bit from a personal experience. I am a recent resident of Schenectady. I moved here 4 months ago, and I fell in love with this city. I love everything. I mean, there's a movie theater. There's so many activities to be had, so many things to do. It's quite amazing, but there's one huge thing missing, and it's a grocery store. We have the farmers market. That's incredible. I think Schenectady Trading Company has some, fresh available food for folks, but those aren't substitutes for a grocery store. I don't even have a car, and that is a real barrier for some folks. I'm lucky to have a partner who has a vehicle, but this downtown area desperately needs a grocery store, not just for community, but it's also an opportunity to energize the economy, attract new residents like myself. It's really the one thing I and many others see missing. And so, I, as a new resident, I'm really thankful for your support in this project and hope that you continue to.
Thank you. I have no one else signed up to speak on the public comment on the legislative agenda, so I declare this public comment closed. At this time, I ask approval of the legislative agenda. Motion by Mr. Muktaveran, second by Mr. Williams. All those in favor? Aye. We have two resolutions, two pieces of legislation for roll call. Resolution number 4, if the clerk would please read.
Item number 4 for original consideration, a resolution setting forth additions to the community benefits agreement between the City of Schenectady and West Yard Properties LLC dated February 15, 2024.
I need a motion. There's no motion to move this forward? Moved by Mr. Williams. I need a second. You can second. I understand that, but there's no second to this motion? Okay. So this can't go back to the legislative agenda, right? Okay. Hmm? Okay. We still have to do a roll call even without a second? Should. So without the second, then this motion dies. Is there no second? Okay, so the motion dies. Item number 12. Roll call.
Item number 12 for original consideration. A resolution appointing Renee Bradley to the City of Schenectady Board of Assessment Review.
I need a motion. Second? Mr. Mancini, all those in favor? Okay, we need a roll call at this point? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any discussion on this item? Thank you. Mr. Williams.
Thank you. Once again, we are met with having a vacancy on one of our boards, and I think it is our responsibility when it is allowed to us to present an opportunity for a member of the community to replace that vacancy. I don't know who recommended the individual, but upon looking at Ms. Bradley's credentials, she is more than qualified in her progressive professional career. I am confident that she will be able to uphold the duties of this position faithfully and dedicatedly. Based on the need to have a roll call, I do not understand the intent. I would openly welcome any comments or feedback, but again, we have another candidate from the community who is willing to do the work of this board, and yet again, we have another roll call at this point that is known of why this individual should not be able to continue forth in this manner. I hope this is not but to Ms. Bradley, should we pass this, definitely I wish you all due respect in this position. And again, to any other member that's interested in pursuing one of these vacancies, I deeply apologize for the manner in which these roll calls are coming out, but please do not deter your interest in opportunities moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Toro.
Thank you, President Porterfield. So again, our job here is to represent the entire community, so roll calls can be made without, yes. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Roll calls can be made on any of the agenda items put forward. So again, as I mentioned at our committee meeting, Ms. Bradley has a most extensive and well-qualified resume. Unfortunately, no one else on the council had a chance to submit a name. There was a letter issued to President Porterfield on or about January 8th, announcing that Mr. Anikal's position expired on September 30th of 23. She had the letter in her possession in January, never sent it to any of the council members. So again, nothing against Ms. Bradley by any means, but I would have liked to have gotten the letter knowing of him not being able to fulfill his position and had an opportunity to put someone forward. Thank you.
Just to clarify the letter stated that they were going to reappoint him, but we did not know until he responded to the entire council that he had moved out of the city. So everyone was privy to that. At this time, may we have the roll call?
Mr. Toro? No. Mr. Farley? Yes. Mr. Mancini? Yes. Mr. Mutavaran? Yes. Ms. Patrick is not here. Mr. Williams? Yes. Ms. Porterfield?
Yes. Motion passes 5-1. This time we have privilege of the floor regarding general city business. I have 45 people signed up to speak. So I just want to lay little ground rules because I see many people signed up to speak are not necessarily from our jurisdiction, and therefore you may not know the rules of how this works. You have 3 minutes. You will hear a timer when your time goes off, and I respectfully ask that you, if you're mid-sentence, complete your sentence and then leave the podium. We have 45 people signed up to speak. If you read what was before you in terms of signing up, there are no direct comments to other groups or the other individuals allowed, and we ask all of your comments be made directly to the chair. Is this one? Okay.
This is the first one.
Okay.
They signed up online.
Okay. The first person I have signed up to speak, these submissions were online, is Susan Rosenberg. Is Susan Rosenberg present? Yes. Come right up, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Susie Rosenberg. I'm a retired emergency psychiatry physician, having served in my career as medical director of crisis services that included support for citizens of Albany, Schenectady, and Rensselaer counties. My specialty included the assessment of individuals posing danger to themselves or others. A big influence on my clinical practice was the work of a French sociologist named Émile Durkheim. He lived between 1858 and 1917. His major contribution was to conclusively demonstrate that when ties that bind society together unravel, both violence and suicide rates spiral upwards, further destabilizing communities. So I learned to highly value the impact of a healthy society on the mental health of individuals and the communities around them, and the impact of an unhealthy society as well. I open my remarks with these thoughts as a way of understanding the profound negative impact of the proposed resolution on the communities you serve. First, it increases discord in an already uncivil civic square. Second, it puts your Jewish constituents in danger on the streets, in their houses of worship, and on college campuses. Acts of hatred towards Jews are on a rocket trajectory, and these anti-Israel resolutions in municipalities fuel those acts. What to do with all this energy swirling around this hot, hot issue? In the town of Bethlehem, where I'm from, members of the Muslim and Jewish community have begun gathering on an informal basis to build bridges of understanding and friendship and having hard conversations in an atmosphere of mutual respect. I would recommend that you do not pass this resolution, you do not put your Jewish constituents in danger, and you do not burn bridges, you build them. Thank you so much.
I just want to make a point of clarification at this time. There is no current resolution before this council. So just so everyone is clear on that. Thank you. Eric Cooper Ginsburg. Is Eric Cooper Ginsburg present? Gay Griffith?
I am here to voice my opinion to the position proposing a resolution for a ceasefire between Hamas, a recognized terrorist organization by the United States and a multitude of countries worldwide, and the State of Israel. As of yesterday, Israel agreed to the terms of the ceasefire. Hamas has rejected it. It should also be remembered that Hamas it was Hamas who reneged on the last ceasefire agreement by not returning the last agreed-upon groups of hostages, thus resuming the fighting. 134 hostages remain in inhumane and cruel conditions for 172 days now. Hamas has refused to also provide a list of the living hostages. The resolution that they are petitioning barely mentions October the 7th, when 5,000 Hamas terrorists breached the border and proceeded to commit atrocities leading to the largest one-day loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust. If Hamas had not attacked Israel on October the 7th, Israel would not have attacked Gaza. The resolution will do nothing to help residents of Gaza, but cause more divisiveness among constituents, fuel more acts of anti-Semitism against Jewish constituents here and the greater capital district. Anti-Semitism has spilled into schools from high schools all the way to elementary schools, some of which have been physical attacks. Jewish children do not feel safe and their parents are afraid for them. No child should feel unsafe at school. The only thing that can help the residents of Gaza is to rid them of all terrorist organizations, especially Hamas, which was elected in 2007 and has remained in power as a dictator-like regime since then. Hamas has no interest in any kind of peace negotiations with Israel. In fact, in its May 2017 charter, it advocates for the complete liberation of Palestine from the river to the sea. In plain English, their stated goal is to destroy Israel, not to live in peace, not for a two-state solution. They simply want to eradicate Israel. Israel, on the other hand, has demonstrated its desire for peace with the peace treaties with Egypt and Jordan, the Oslo Accord, the Abraham Accords, and the multiple peace negotiations with Fatah over the decades. The responsibility of this council is to ensure the safety and unity of the constituents of this community. As a Jew, I do not feel safe. As many other Jewish institutions, our synagogue now has armed security during services, religious school, and events. Every citizen in the United States has the right to feel safe practicing their religion. Right now, that is not true for American Jews. A permanent ceasefire is not a bilateral ceasefire, as it only calls on Israel to cease without putting any pressure on Hamas. It leaves the remaining hostages in the hands of Hamas and leaves Hamas in power to commit more attacks. Hamas has vowed to repeat the atrocities of October 7th over and over again. Hamas should surrender. A ceasefire will follow immediately. This is the only acceptable outcome for Israelis and the larger Jewish community. Anything else will continue this cycle of violence and therefore the existential threat to our people. The leadership of the mainstream Jewish community was not contacted regarding this proposed resolution. The Jewish group that is included in this petition does not represent or speak for the mainstream Jewish community, and they especially don't represent or speak for me. Thank you.
Jonathan Rubin.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, President Porterfield, members of the City Council. I'm Jonathan Rubin, President of Congregation Gates of Heaven here in Schenectady. I want to thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation tonight. We anticipate that there will probably be a petition brought forward to you tonight seeking a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. We are here tonight to ask, number one, as we saw tonight, there's a lot of important business that comes before the Schenectady City Council, as comes before all of local government. Local government is the form of government that is closest to the people. We deal with infrastructure, we deal with industrial development, we deal with transportation, we deal with housing, we deal with all of the things that make a city and a community click. And issues such as the one that's before you, that is likely going to be before you tonight, are ones that are respectfully outside the purview of local governments, which is something handled by the federal government and to a lesser extent to state governments as well. And we would ask that we not interfere with the really important work that is done here in the city of Schenectady. To the extent, however, that the council does decide that it wants to entertain such a position and get into issues of international relations, we would ask that you consider that the resolution coming before you is one that calls for a permanent ceasefire. As you've already heard from others already tonight, and I'm sure you'll hear from others as well, the ability to have a permanent ceasefire is not something that is achievable as long as the terrorist organization Hamas remains in operational power. On October 7th, They crossed the border, engaged in a massacre of over 1,000 innocent Israelis, children, women, adults, seniors, even pets and animals. Those who they did not kill, they've maintained as hostages. Some have been released, over 100 remain. We share in a position of thoughtfulness and compassion and care those who are going to bring a resolution, should they do so tonight. We are not questioning their desire to want to see peace. We are not questioning their desire to want to see an end to suffering. We share in that stated goal, and we would imagine everybody wants to see that to happen. But we're not going to be able to achieve that as long as the Gaza Strip is under the control of a terrorist organization. I thank you for your time tonight, and I hope that you take these words under consideration. Thank you.
Michelle Greenblatt? Is Michelle Greenblatt present?
Good evening, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I know that the ceasefire resolution has not yet been brought before the council. I know that there is a petition to bring such a resolution. I ask you, as a proud member of the Jewish community, to not entertain the possibility of a ceasefire resolution in your town. It is very divisive. It causes members of your community in Schenectady and elsewhere to be pitted against one another. We all don't, none of us want to have people dying over these threats by a terrorist organization. For 75 years, Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, has been planting the seeds and manipulating the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip to believe that their value is greater dead than alive. Jews value life, and we want life for everyone, even people that we are at odds with, who have different theological differences. Anti-Semitism is rampant these days across communities and college campuses and in our schools. Passing such a resolution increases the rate of anti-Semitism, making your constituents feel unsafe and unheard. The ceasefire resolution is an international issue and not one that affects local politics, and I would really hope that you consider the concerns of your constituents. A ceasefire resolution in Gaza and between Hamas and Israel will not help the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people have no regard for their lives, as they have built miles upon miles of cement tunnels under Gaza, not for the safety of their civilians, who are not allowed into the tunnels during bombing. It is only for the Hamas members and to keep their stores of food, which they also do not allow their civilians to have, even though humanitarian aid is free and should be given to the Palestinians. They are selling it. So I really hope that we can come together and help support one another in our efforts to make the situation better for the Palestinian people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Susanna Levin.
Well, thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm Susanna Levin from Albany. As a member of the Jewish community of the Greater Capital Region, I implore that the Schenectady Common Council refrain from taking up this or any ceasefire legislation. We Jews are a family that stretches around the world and across 4,000 years of history. In every generation, we've been singled out as a nation apart, scapegoated with dangerous rhetoric. This rhetoric always leads to actual danger. From the Crusades and pogroms to the Nazi Holocaust to the horrific massacres, rape, torture, and kidnapping of October 7, we take seriously the words of our detractors. How do pogroms against Jews even happen? Who allows such a thing? First, there are those who want to kill Jews, and they do. In this case, Hamas terrorists who murdered innocents and promised 10 times more October 7s. And then there are the supporters, those who will provide rationale for those acts of violence in the name of the greater good. These are groups that promote legislation like the one that you may be petitioned, a resolution that outlines freedom and dignity for anyone but Israel, anyone but Jews. And finally, there are the indifferent, those who would enable violence against my people simply by not opposing it. A call for a ceasefire is a call for violence against Jews. Council members, please do not feel the pressure to join the historic ranks of the indifferent. Do not allow this legislation to cast a shadow on your good work and your good names. Calling for ceasefire is a call for Jews to surrender their national defense. There is no reasonable compromise to this demand, as it's a demand for national suicide. Calling for ceasefire does not bring the Palestinians closer to nationhood, unfortunately. It prolongs their suffering under the oppressive Hamas regime, which neither protects nor provides for them. Calling for ceasefire does not bring peace. This call for ceasefire does not call for an end to Hamas aggression. It does not guarantee the return of the innocent hostages. Without Hamas's defeat or surrender, the war will continue because Hamas doesn't follow rules of war. They don't engage in diplomacy. They will keep fighting. Finally, a call for ceasefire results in the scapegoating of Jews everywhere by gaslighting self-defense as aggression. A local legislation that promotes this language is bringing prejudice and threat of violence to their constituents here at home. To Jews, Israel is not a faraway place, not a speck on the map. It is where our family lives. It is our homeland, and what happens there affects us deeply here. I pray that your family should never be in danger while the world demands that you cease fighting for them. Please oppose this or any ceasefire legislation that comes before you. Thank you.
Jury Stillman.
I'm a Jewish American, I'm Israeli, I'm a two-time survivor of the suicide bombings during the Second Intifada in 2001. I have dear family and friends in Israel, and myself and every Jew from left to right want peace for all the Jews, Israeli Arabs, and Palestinians who seek to live side by side in true peace and mutual recognition of each other. Tonight, I intend to shed light on Jewish Voices for Peace, since they're likely speaking here. JVP is an organization that, despite its name, is neither necessarily Jewish nor peaceful and has garnered significant critique for its actions and stated vociferously anti-Zionist objectives. On the surface, JVP might seem to epitomize the values of love and a desire for peace. However, it's crucial to examine the substance behind this. This perspective is echoed by Alison Sommer in the far-left Israeli publication Haaretz, who noted, to many mainstream moderate and even left-wing groups, and certainly for the Israeli government, JVP is beyond the pale, aiding and abetting those who would harm or even eliminate Israel if it were possible. JVP's focus agenda is to dismantle the state of Israel. This mission of delegitimization diverges sharply from the Jewish community's diverse but generally united support for Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state and for Jewish self-determination. JVP has been linked to global terrorist regimes, including the Islamic Republic of Iran and groups like Samidun, associated with the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. On a specific note, the glorification of terrorists who committed heinous acts against civilians, including children, under the guise of decolonization is abhorrent. Such actions do not align with the principles of peace and justice. They embolden and legitimize violence under the misleading banner of activism. JVP's messaging, far from promoting peace, sows division and misrepresents the rich diversity of Jewish thought. In closing, I urge us to approach such discussions with a commitment to truth, dialogue, and the pursuit of genuine peace. Let us be wary of those who would co-opt the language of peace and justice to advance divisive agendas. Our collective future depends on building bridges of understanding, not walls of separation. Thank you for your time and attention.
Gail Sacco. Is Gail Sacco present?
Hi, my name is Gail Sacco. I've been part of the Capital Region Jewish community for over 40 years. Can you hear me? Louder? Okay. I just want to say, in our services, we have something called the Mourner's Kaddish, and we stand to honor the dead and the grieving. I'm grieving for all of the innocent Palestinians. I am grieving for all the innocent Israelis. I am grieving for all the innocent Americans. Because I stand at every service for that. I want to wish the Muslim people, I hope it's appropriate, Eid Mubarak. You say it in the middle as well as at the beginning, because I know you're in the middle of
Ma'am,
Ramadan.
you need to please address the chair.
I want to wish you Eid Mubarak.
No, ma'am, you need to address the chair.
Sorry. Eid Mubarak, because I know they're in the middle of Ramadan. I wanted to talk, I had a chance to look at the resolution that you're being asked to take a look at, and I wanted to talk about the local. The established Jewish community leaders in Schenectady were not consulted. We're not part of putting this together. There is no mention in it of, except for a mention of anti-Semitism, there is no mention in it of either Hamas or Israelis or the hostages, except for the hostages who are released. It's divisive in the community. There have been incidents. There has been an incident in the Schenectady City School District where a group put out an email suggesting that Israelis be called ethnic cleansers and genocide people. There has been a middle schooler who was told that he could not go to school because he was Israeli, and in fact, his family had to leave the community. And this is a family that lost someone October 7th. It encourages somebody who wants to shoot at a synagogue, which has happened in the Capital Region. It's divisive to a community that needs to be coming together. Today is 171 of the hostages. The youngest hostage is 1 year old. The oldest hostage is 80. Many of them went to a music festival. When Hamas was asked to identify them, they were unable to identify them or unable to tell where they are. What this resolution does not reflect all of the constituency of this community, and it adds to the amount of anti-Semitism that we are already seeing. Thank you.
Thank you. Bonnie Eisenberg.
Hi. Thank you for letting me come and speak. I've been a lifelong resident of the Capital Region and am a proud Jew and a proud Zionist. My direct connection, as somebody prior to me said, what happened on October 7th isn't something that happened far away to other people. For the Jewish community, for me personally, my family grew up in Kibbutz Re'im, which is the kibbutz that was right near was the closest kibbutz to the music festival that was attacked, and Kibbutz Re'im was destroyed. This is very personal, it's very painful, and as others have also said, we don't just cry for the Israelis, we cry for the Palestinian suffering as well. We want peace, but you can't have peace with an organization that promotes the idea that it's better to die than to live peacefully with your Israeli and Egyptian neighbors. your proposed resolution shows that, or the proposed resolution that you will be seeing soon, shows that it does not blame the aggressor, Hamas, but instead blames the country who wants peace but will defend its citizens against annihilation. I don't know if you've seen it before, but in that proposed resolution, some of the words are, you're calling for peaceful diplomacy that protects the security of all innocent civilians. I call for that too. But there's only one party that's interested in living in peace with their neighbors in Gaza, with their Palestinian neighbors, and that's Israel. Hamas has made it incredibly clear they will prefer the death of all Palestinians before they would be willing to live peacefully with Israel. So if you take on this proposal and you decide to approve it, what you're doing is not helping Palestinians. The only way to help Palestinians and Israelis and everyone in the area is to hold Hamas accountable. And any ceasefire would do exactly the opposite. It would be empowering Hamas. So I just wanted to mention that what's personally painful is that my social justice partners are supporting Hamas war criminals instead of holding them accountable and demanding their swift removal and replacement with a Palestinian government that wants to live in peace with Israeli and Egyptian neighbors. And that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Laura Weisblatt.
Hi, please bear with me because I lost my voice. My name is Laura Weisblatt, and I am a local resident. I am an active member of the Jewish community here in the Greater Capital Region. I am gravely concerned about the petition for a proposed ceasefire resolution pertaining to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that is going to come before you today. Such resolutions are one-sided and place the blame for this war solely on Israel, which is misguided at best, and at worst, it is dangerous to Jews globally and locally. The proposed resolution is extremely divisive and misinformed. It parrots the anti-Israel propaganda machine that is unfortunately driving much of the current mainstream media. As Jewish constituents reading this resolution, I'll tell you how we feel: threatened, isolated, intimidated, alienated. 95% of the global Jewish community, it loves Israel. We consider it to be our Jewish homeland. It is a safe haven for Jews from all over the world to come and be safe when we can't be safe in other countries that have expelled us or actually ethnically cleansed us, which has happened many, many times in our history. The demonization of Israel and of the Jewish people is exactly what fuels the hatred against us, and it makes violence against us palatable. The external pressure that we feel to divest ourselves from our love of Israel and our belief in its right to exist is terrifying and heartbreaking. As some of us said, we're proud Zionists. It's not a bad word. It just means that we believe in our right to self-determine in our ancestral homeland that we have had a presence, continuous presence in for 4,000 years. My husband and my 3-year-old son were inside Temple Israel in Albany when a man came and fired a shotgun several times outside the temple. He yelled threatening statements. My husband had to hide in a storage closet with my son for 2 hours on lockdown in fear of their lives for what was happening. We are forever traumatized by that event in my family, an event that happened right here in Albany, for the sole reason that we are Jewish and therefore targets of hate crimes and terror attacks. At a time of heightened tensions, I ask that this resolution not be considered at all. The attacks of October 7th perpetrated against the Jewish people of Israel by Hamas terrorists continue to affect our daily life. Right here in our local schools, our children have been experiencing anti-Semitic acts, including those who had family members murdered in those attacks, whose children were told in a middle school, your family deserved what happened to them on October 7th. It would be beyond irresponsible of this council to inflame these tensions anymore. Israel is in an existential war against Hamas, an enemy sworn to its destruction. This is not a war against Palestinians or other Muslims. Jews and supporters here in Schenectady and around the capital region and in the world want peace between Palestinians and Israelis.
I need you to summarize, ma'am. Your time
Such a
has
peace can
expired.
begin right here in Schenectady by our city council members refusing to engage with a ceasefire resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Rabbi Rafi Spitzer.
Good evening, Madam President. Thank you for hearing me. I just want to thank you for listening to speaker after speaker. I represent Congregation Agudat Achim, one of the largest Jewish communities in Schenectady County, with many members in the city of Schenectady. And I'm here to support the Jewish community as they come to share their deep concerns and their fears with you. I just wanted to say a little bit about what Zionism is. Zionism is the progressive movement for liberation and national self-determination of the Jewish people in our ancestral homeland, the land of Israel. A movement that not only guarantees Jewish sovereignty, but also Jewish security. Zionism is the embodiment of the incredible racial and cultural diversity of the Jewish people, the physical and spiritual descendants of the Jews of antiquity who were driven from Israel, otherwise known as Zion or Judea, into exile and scattered across the globe, yet remained united generation after generation in custom, peoplehood, and prayer directed toward Jerusalem. Zionism is an inherent and inseparable part of Jewish identity for the vast majorities of Jews on earth and for my Jewish community and the Jewish community of the city of Schenectady. Once again, thank you so much for being here and listening and making space for everybody to be able to share their perspective and point of view. And good evening.
Thank you. Jeffrey Hanselman.
Good evening, Madam President and Mayor McCarthy and members of the council. My name is Jeffrey Handelman. I'm chair of the board of Jewish Federation of Northeastern New York. I'm not an activist. Being here is really outside my comfort zone, but I felt compelled to speak tonight because I hate to see the division in our community. I see it online, I see it in the comments, I see it in the newspaper, and I do not understand why this elected body is being asked to debate international affairs beyond your scope of control. I just want to tell a story about Eshkol. Eshkol is a region, it's a sister region for the Jewish Federation of the Capital District. It's an agricultural community that borders Gaza, filled with the most left-leaning liberal Jews in Israel, peace-seeking, innocent people. My wife and children have been there. I've been there. My children actually spent a few weeks there making friends. We've hosted students from Eshkol. One beautiful woman, young woman who stayed with us on October 7th, both her parents and her younger brother, Sagi, were murdered by Hamas. So this is really close to home. It's just a horrible situation. What's going on in Gaza is beyond indescribably horrible. I understand that. My point in speaking is to remind everybody that it's a complex, nuanced, difficult situation. It can't be simplified by a one-sided resolution that is more complex than most people really understand. There are many innocent Palestinians who have suffered, and it's horrible. But the problem in this comes down to Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization that can't be allowed to exist because that means no security for Israel, no security for Palestinians. I've taken up enough of your time. It's going to be a long night. I want to thank all of you for your time. I'm sorry that you're in this position. Please do whatever you can to bring healing and peace to our community because that is something that is in with your purview. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed Layton.
Hi, thank you. I'm here to oppose any resolution regarding the ceasefire, and I'd like to bring my perspective to this debate. My wife and I have our oldest child, his wife, and our 3 grandkids live in a town called Netanya. And in their apartment building, they have a safe room. The safe room is a room made of concrete, extra inch of concrete, steel door on the outside, steel shutters on the exterior window, and ventilation system that can be shut off in the event of a gas attack. This is the life in Israel. Israelis are constantly under pressure from terrorist organizations, Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Islamic Jihad in other parts of other countries, and to have a resolution asking Israel to not protect themselves is an injustice to the Jewish community. My wife and I were just there for the entire month of February. We were on a solidarity mission with some members here from the Jewish community. We were down in the Eshkol region. We saw the terror attacks that had occurred in the kibbutzes where the terrorists came in and attacked women, children, men, and horrific events that had happened. What we learned on this trip is that we had a tour guide, and he explained that in Egypt, the Egyptians celebrate October 6th as a holiday to represent their terror attack, which was the Six-Day Yom Kippur War in 1973. Egypt still celebrates that. And what happens over in the Middle East, and Israel being the only democracy, terrorist organizations try to one-up each other. And Israel's goal at this point in time is to completely eliminate the terrorist organization so that they have no bragging rights going forward and they can live in peace. And even to this day, rockets are still being fired from the north in Lebanon, and that's going to be the next confrontation area. So as much as you want a ceasefire from Gaza, there's going to be other conflicts in the north out of Lebanon. And with that, the Israeli people, a ceasefire is really an injustice to them. They are looking to defend themselves against a terror organization. They want to live safe lives like everyone else in democratic societies. So I rise that you do not entertain any ceasefire resolution.
Thank you. Eileen Handelman.
Mayor McCarthy, City Council members, and residents of Schenectady. I'm standing here before you tonight not just sharing concerns as a resident of Schenectady, but as someone whose family history and personal journey are deeply intertwined with the very issues unexpectedly surfacing in our local discourse. In the introduction of the divisive symbols, the rhetoric, from the river to the sea, being here tonight with this possible proposal, particularly those linked to the tragic events of October 7th and the actions of Hamas, has not only reopened old wounds, but has starkly reminded me of the personal battles that I've fought to overcome a legacy of trauma, a legacy I've painstakingly worked to not pass down to my own children. My family's story is one of resilience in the face of adversity, marked by a history of violence and survival. My mother, who worked at the Y here in Schenectady for many, many years, was basically an orphan at 12, and she ended up a fighter amidst the siege of Jerusalem at 17, serving in the Palmach under Rabin when that war broke up. My father was shot on the front line during that war and remained in a coma for more than a week, surviving the first surgery of its kind on a battlefield. The subsequent shadow PTSD that has followed our family to Schenectady in 1972, we got here, has been a constant reminder of this cost of conflict. I've lived a life grappling with this inherited trauma, navigating through a childhood I can only describe as tumultuous at best. Yet through sheer determination, I've managed to shield my children from this legacy, striving to provide them with a sense of peace and stability that I never had. But here we are. Today, I'm confronted with a painful irony. The symbols, the slogans, the echoing, the violence and terror from a region thousands of miles away have infiltrated our community's discourse, challenging the very peace I've fought so hard to secure for my family. It's a stark reminder that the work of overcoming trauma is never truly done, especially when the echoes of trauma are amplified by the actions of our own community. This isn't merely about international politics or distant conflicts. It's about the impact right here, right now, on our community's fabric, on individuals like me who've worked tirelessly, not just to contribute to the betterment of Schenectady, but to overcome personal histories of violence and trauma. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my story, but I need you to remember these things as we sit here in these chambers conducting the business of Schenectady, not the Middle East. Thank you.
Susan Ungerman.
Hi. This is very hard for me. I just want the room to go back to applauding for Pearl and feel that unification, because that is possible. I have a really long history of Israel. I'm a resident of the Capital District. And since I was a child, my grandparents came from Russia. We're all interconnected. But since I was a child, I was always felt and was brought up that Israel, out of anywhere, was a safe haven for any Jew from anywhere. We have a home after 4,000 years of being forced out of anywhere we lived. I learned about the Holocaust and was grateful that my people survived again. We've been hated literally from the beginning of time. Why? I've been to Israel 8 times. The first time I was 12, our tour bus broke down in the Gaza Strip, and one of my fondest memories of my life was playing for 3 hours with an Arab girl my age, 12 years old. We played ball. We fell in love with each other. We became friends. That was the beauty of innocence. I lived on and worked on a kibbutz for 4 summers, and I've been to Israel 7 times. I have many, many friends and many, many family members who live there, who served in the IDF, and thank God most of them are okay. The last time I was there was February 11th. I was there from the 11th to the 18th, and I was on the Solidarity Mission with the Jewish Federation. I also am a product of trauma, but I felt it was my duty to bear witness to the events of 10/7. And no matter how prepared I was, and I watched it all, I was not prepared for what I experienced. There was so much pain, so much shock, so much suffering, because since my first visit, I have been very passionate about the plight of the residents of Gaza. That is with my soul. I am a social justice warrior, and I am vocal about injustices. No one can shut me up. That is the truth. I stand to the best of my ability, claiming that I am known in this area for confronting racism, and I have had the rudest awakening as those who I have supported and stood up against intentionally and wholeheartedly have turned their backs on the Jewish population. I was at the site of Nova. My heart was torn open looking at the site, seeing these beautiful faces of these kids that were dancing and playing and listening to music, knowing that they were raped and tortured and kidnapped. Is that my time?
That is your time, ma'am.
Okay. I thank you all, and I wish I could go on. We want peace, and we want to work with the people of Gaza. We really, really do.
Thank you. Amy Bloom.
Thank you so much for having us here. You might wonder why so many of us have come out from Albany to Schenectady. The reason is, it's like, of course I do. The reason is because we lost the fight in Albany. In Albany, in November, Miko Piled was brought to speak in our local library. Miko presents himself as a Jew, and instead he is a man of hate, pure hatred. We begged our local library to please not bring him into our space, and instead he came. And at that moment, hatred between Jews and Muslims in the town of Bethlehem began. Hatred that we now need to work very hard to find a partnership to overcome. Then the Albany City Council was meeting. We were promised there would not be a vote on a resolution, and instead the vote happened and the resolution passed. And we're here today to say to you, please do not make Schenectady Albany. Please do better than Albany did. You can't really have an impact on anything by voting yes to the potential resolution that's going to come before you. The only thing that will impact is negative. Your children, the Jewish children in the Schenectady County, will suffer. There will be hatred that will rain upon them for no good reason. I was the past preschool director at Temple Israel Nursery School until August. Students, 100 students, 40 staff of mine spent a day of sheer terror. Locked in a building, 8 children, 1 teacher, locked in a building while a gunman ran loose. And why? Simply because of hate against Jews. Those children will never be the same, and I can tell you, my staff will never, ever be the same. We were a solid staff that had been there quite a long time together. They're now down to 8 remaining staff. 8 simply due to trauma of Jew hatred. Please, we can make peace together. You guys have an opportunity to allow your Jewish constituents to feel loved, supported, and cared about, but simply passing a resolution that Schenectady County is in favor of a peace in the Middle East has no true impact. It just serves to pit Muslims against Jews, and we don't need to do that. There's already enough hate in the world. Please help bring peace.
Thank you. Valerie Toriano.
Good evening, council members. I'm here tonight in support of a ceasefire resolution to call for a permanent ceasefire and end to the Israeli occupation of historic Palestine. I felt guilty knowing that Palestinians' blood are on my hands from my federal, New York State, and Schenectady taxes funding Israel's weapons and genocide against Palestinians. An estimate of $962,074 of Schenectady taxes goes towards funding Israel's weapons. I'm here to say not on our dimes, as we did not consent to our taxes funding the bombings, shootings, and starvation of Palestinian men, women, and children. Imagine what that $962,074 could go to bettering our communities, such as funding education, Schenectady County Public Libraries, the local arts, helping the homeless on our streets, community gardens, fixing up our infrastructures, improving playgrounds for our children, and after-school programs for our youth K through 12th grade to enrich themselves. These last 6 months has not just been about Israel defending themselves, it's an ethnic cleansing and genocide of Palestinians that has been going on for over 75 years. Palestinians haven't known freedom or peace in over a century between both the British and Israel occupying Palestine. This isn't a Judaism versus Islam conflict either, as Israeli military have also been killing Palestinian Christians and Jews too as well. If this was about Israel defending themselves from the October 7th, 2024 attack, then why did the Flower Massacre happen where Israeli military shot starving Palestinians rushing to the food aid trucks? Why are they bombing hospitals? Why is Israel bombing Rafah refugee camps after forcing Gazans to leave Gaza and into Rafah? This is not a defense, conflict, or a war on Gaza. This is an ethnic cleansing and genocide of Palestinians. To conclude, I'd like to remind those who are followers of Christ that Jesus was born in Bethlehem, which is in historic Palestine, which makes Jesus a Palestinian Jew, and he's heartbroken watching his people being bombed, shot, and starved. We are all human beings who bleed the same and deserve basic human rights, decency, respect, love, connection, and to feel safe. I have hope we'll see a free, secular, democratic Palestine in our lifetime. Thank you, council members, for your time to listen to my words.
Thank you. Michelle Sanders.
Thank you. Okay, I got a chance to look at the proposal, and in the proposal, the ceasefire resolution, saying anti-Semitism is unacceptable. That's completely disingenuous. These statements only serve to promote divisiveness in our communities and misrepresent what is actually happening. Hamas attacked the state of Israel in the most brutal of ways, attacking people in their homes, killing parents in front of children, microwaving babies, shoving guns into women's vaginas and discharging them, gang rapes of women, and the kidnapping of babies, young children, and infirm elderly victims. Hamas started a war with Israel. The leaders of Hamas, who live in luxury in Qatar, are not interested in peace with Israel, not interested in a two-state solution, or living alongside Jews at all. Their goal is to erase the Jewish people from existence by making it impossible for us to defend ourselves. World War II and the current events globally have taught us that without the ability to fight back, Jews would again become the scapegoats for all the ills in society. In my life, I never thought I would see far-left progressives side with an organization that uses their most vulnerable population as human shields, citing the belief that martyrdom is to be exalted, uses the humanitarian aid that is sent to Gaza as a means to make money in the open market, glorify the rape and brutalization of innocent civilians, supports the immutable refugee status for 3 generations of a portion of their population, and blames it on Israel. Supporting resolutions like these incites the anti-Jewish rhetoric, which can lead to violence against Jews. It does nothing to actually help Palestinians, but proves that our concerns for safety fall on deaf ears. Thank you.
Thank you. Andre Girard. Andre Girard. Rami Salah. Ramia? There's people in the hallway? Okay. I believe it's Ramia. Peter Cook.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Peter Cook. I serve as Executive Director of the New York State Council of Churches, which represents 9 denominations and 7,500 churches, including some in Schenectady. In a spirit of openness, I'm here to call on this body to consider all sides, debate and amend the resolution, and not just take it carte blanche, and also just to acknowledge the bravery of the people who have brought this resolution before you. For many years now, our denominations have advocated for the rights of both Palestinians and Israelis. My wife was born in East Jerusalem to a father who devoted his life to resettling Palestinian refugees. She had to leave in 1968 during the war. We have friends in the West Bank who are incarcerated in Israeli prisons for speaking out. In my family, in my church, we have been at this a very, very long time. Most recently, the National Council of Churches and our denominations have called for a ceasefire, joining Senator Schumer, who also called for a ceasefire, while condemning the actions of Hamas on October 7th and calling for the release of all hostages and political prisoners as a condition of the ceasefire. Our executive committee made such a statement a few weeks after October 7th, with many hostages captured by Hamas and many more prisoners in Israeli jails still not returned, and the death of over 31,000 Palestinians, not to mention countless injuries and death by starvation. The foot-dragging and equivocation to stop the violence, to not stop the violence, is unconscionable. As long as avoidance continues, it will be impossible to heal wounds and reopen a conversation for a new future for Christians, Jews, and Muslims in this land who have struggled with injustice. So I'm just going to ask this body not to just take this resolution, but support an open process by which the language is discussed, amended, and debated, and do that in the most open and transparent way possible. And we cannot be chilled by a pall of intimidation, and we must be gathered together as a body that seeks the truth, and that only happens through robust public conversation. Thank you.
Has anyone entered the room? Ramia Salah? No? Okay, Ed Lavin Jr.?
Sorry, I'm not Jewish.
Sir, comments up here, please.
May God bless and protect the Jewish people and give them peace of heart and mind. Mr. Mayor, it's time to ask if any voters would have voted for you.
Speak into the microphone, please. Thank you.
It's time to ask if any voters would have voted for you had they known that you were covering up the crimes of corrupt judges Frost and Falatico. Please tell me how it is ethical to not meet with a tax-paying citizen that had the crime of conspiracy to deprive me of my constitutional rights of due process and a fair hearing perpetrated by the 2 corrupt judges you appointed to their positions. Andrew Colden must have some morals and scruples. You didn't reappoint him. Good for him. Don't worry, you still have your corrupt DA and County Attorney Gardner to pull my ethics complaint. I have a copy of his nonsense for you and council members. I guess there is no ethics in Schenectady. It goes along with government transparency missing. Police chief wouldn't meet with me, sheriff also. Clifford's wife was your secretary when you refused to meet with me in your office. John DeAugustine is on your Smart City Advisory Committee. Of course, you have nothing about salary or meeting scheduled. I guess that's why I'm not in the Gazette. Falatico's wife works in the finance department. I'm not the only person deprived of help by you. Ask what the Humphrey girls' relatives think of you. No Amber Alert, didn't meet the criteria? Really? How about the 1,100 St. Clair's pensioners that you went to bat for? Oh, that's right, you didn't do jack shit for them either. Continue to cover up for the criminals. To hell with the victims. I am not going away.
Sir, no swearing, please. No swearing.
There is no time limits on the crime of conspiracy to deprive a citizen of their constitutional rights. And since you are doing nothing but covering up for Frost and Falatico, I guess you are part of the conspiracy. I will start sending my proof to neighboring states and news stations. I found one honest state policeman to take my complaint. U.S. Attorney would not accept it. D.A. Carney says there was no crime, which he is now guilty of obstruction of governmental administration. I will be back outside of City Hall. What these judges did is so egregious for a judge to do that is a mandatory jail sentence. That's why no one is willing to do anything. I have the proof here for all the council members, the mayor, and chairman of the board.
Thank you. Asad Ali.
Hey everyone, thank you for giving me time to speak. As being a U.S. citizen, honestly speaking, I'm just a regular U.S. citizen who came, who got a message and was deeply saddened to see what was going on in Gaza for past few months. Little children get died like every day, and like I can make up stories over here that things happen, and like I was attacked by several people, which is not the case. Social media in today's era speaks a lot. There are videos of young 5-year, 6-year-old children getting like hurt, so I suggest like a ceasefire. And when we do the ceasefire, we need to understand the history of Palestine and Israel. 80 years ago, how was the map of Palestine look versus it looks now? Palestine people were forced out slowly by slowly out of their land, and it's a natural instinct that if someone enters my house and start taking control over that, I will raise my voice as much as I can to get the justice. And for all sake, justice for Palestine people whose land it was 80 years ago, and what is the picture of the map right now in the world's map. I suggest a ceasefire and immediate stopping of killing of small children, ladies on both ends, on Israel and Palestine. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Susan Rosenberg. Susan Rosenberg? I beg your pardon? She spoke. That was, oh, yes, she was the very first one. Thank you. Signed up twice. Okay. Let's see, we're down to Matt. I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name. It looks like Oil? It is Oil, okay.
Like Motor Oil, the kind of oil the U.S. wants to steal for democracy. All right, as my last comment might indicate, I'm here to voice my support for a ceasefire resolution. As of this weekend, approximately 32,000 people, mostly women and children, have been killed in Gaza since October, and about 74,000 have been injured. And this is only what's been recorded. The real casualty rate is probably even higher, with not only the continuous bombing of the region, but also the mass starvation due to the blockading of aid by the IDF. Not to mention bombardment of the West Bank, something that on its own should dispel the notion that this is purely about stopping Hamas, as Hamas has no presence in the West Bank. Despite this, President Biden continues to provide the Netanyahu regime with unconditional military aid, making ceasefire resolutions, such as those that have been passed in numerous cities across the country, including Seattle, San Francisco, Chicago, and even Albany, important. And thus, I urge the city of Schenectady to follow in their lead, and while a ceasefire resolution will be critical for the current situation, it is the bare minimum of what must be done. No ceasefire will truly last as long as the occupation of Palestine land by the Israeli state remains. This occupation and siege has displaced and brutalized the Palestinian people for 75 years and only seeks to benefit the capitalist system via war profits by the ruling class. Working people in the US and around the world, including in Israel itself, have nothing to gain from this occupation. And the funds going towards the military aid could easily be used for funding services for communities around housing and healthcare, etc. And therefore, I would like to urge that a ceasefire resolution also include language around ending US military aid and ending the occupation and siege. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamal Shah.
Thank you all for giving us this time and space. Before I get started, I do have 908 ceasefire signatures here that I would like to share with you, if that's okay. This is 9 days worth of work, so 100 people per day. I'm not going to go into 100+ years of history. We're not here for a history lesson. But I will say, as the Imam of the Schenectady Islamic Center, the biggest Muslim organization in the city of Schenectady, and really representing a lot more than just Muslims for this particular issue, what we're calling for in that resolution is an end to violence. It's an end to the murder of children on both sides. It's an end to the blockage of aid, diapers, insulin, things that every human being, every family need, that we take for granted, but that those Palestinians in Gaza right now wish they could have. We can walk to the grocery store, get what we need, and walk right out. They don't have that option. Their aid trucks are being blocked by families of settlers, Zionist settlers, who block those aid trucks with smiles on their faces. And they've been on record as wanting to introduce death upon all the citizens of Gaza, because there's this infatuation that every Palestinian happens to be a Hamas terrorist. I don't need to remind you how hateful and how dangerous racist rhetoric can be. We know that firsthand as the Muslims in America. You know that firsthand being an African-American woman of color. And we all know that in our own capacity and have had experience with that. I think the most pertinent thing today to take away from is that the ceasefire resolution that's being introduced here, that we're asking you to uphold simply as a gesture of elected officials on behalf of the people you represent, is one of inclusion. A ceasefire accomplishes an exchange of hostages under the guise of safety and security for both sides, not just for one side. We are not here to talk about Hamas, unlike some others who have come here and apparently are obsessed with Hamas. We're here simply to talk about the fact that the Israeli Defense Forces are not only bombing indiscriminately, not only shooting indiscriminately, but after they bomb and they shoot, they will then go and pillage the homes that they've just destroyed, riding a dead kid's bicycle on TikTok and laughing about it, stealing the lingerie of women that they just murdered for the world to see, and they have no shame whatsoever about it. And for anyone to say that they support the most moral army in the world, quote unquote, goes to show you what their version of morality is, what their definition of morality is. For us, again, beyond just Muslims, we see something happening against humanity, a crime against humanity, and I look at this side of the room and I see more than just Muslims. I see more than just one color of people. I see people that recognize truth for what it is and want to speak out against the injustice that suppresses that truth, which is that violence upon a group of people simply because they happen to be from a certain part of the world, simply because their nationality happens to be Palestinian, simply because their language happens to be Arabic, is completely wrong. There is no room for this in 2024. There's no room for it ever in the world. But since...
I need you to summarize, please, sir.
Thank you very much. I will end with this. If you guys pass this resolution, you will do a great thing for the constituents that you represent. I understand some people may be upset, but at the end of the day, the city of Schenectady, you as elected officials, all we want you to do is just say, there has to be a stop to the violence, a stop to the genocide. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Soheeb, I might be not saying your name properly. Soheeb Shakima? If you could pronounce it correctly for me, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, it's Sohaib Chakiba. Let it be said on record that all of us here are against the killing of all innocent lives. It is imperative to put everything in perspective, since the Zionist movement and its sympathizers always start from October 7th, along with many debunked lies. While all facts, Palestinians have been checked and confirmed, since this is the only live broadcasted genocide in the history of mankind. I would like to mention a few facts so we may have a clear understanding of the situation in the occupied Palestine and our ask for the passing of the ceasefire resolution at hand. The same British Empire that our founding fathers fought off this land decided to hand over another occupied land called Palestine to a group of terrorist Zionists who killed and forced almost 1 million indigenous Palestinians out of their homes and land. In 1948, Muslims, Christians, and Jews have continued to suffer in their occupation. The struggle has always been between the Zionist occupiers and the Palestinians occupied. For anyone who states that Israel has a right to defend itself, I say read up on the UN's position in regards to the occupying entity and the occupied, and who has the right to self-defense. For anyone who says Hamas started this on the 7th of October, I say, read up on what happened to Palestinians between 1948 and the year Hamas was established in 1987. Oh yeah, also read up on what is happening to Palestinians in the West Bank, where there is no Hamas. For anyone who says Israel is eliminating Hamas, I say look at the evidence widely available of Israeli leadership calling for the elimination of the entire population by all means, while calling Palestinians animals and terrorists. Don't forget the Zionists claim that occupied Palestine belongs to the Zionists with no place for the indigenous Palestinians. For anyone who says Israel has no choice but to keep killing and starving Gazans simply because it will eliminate Hamas, I ask the council members if they would accept that for our own Schenectady residents. Do you accept the collective punishment of all the residents of Schenectady, including your own loved ones? I will even pretend that you are not aware of the number of killed children, mothers, fathers, elderly, journalists, medics, and NGO workers. I will further pretend that you are not aware of the orchestrated starvation of Gazans, which is predicted to be the leading cause of the death in Gaza. What the heck, I will even pretend that you're not aware of the assassination of civilians. As a father, an activist, an educator, a school principal, a counselor, a police chaplain, and a community leader, but most importantly as a human being, I know that we must call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire, immediate delivery of unrestricted humanitarian aid, the ending of US funding of the genocide, and reinstatement of the UNRWA funding, and the release of all hostages, all hostages, all hostages. With this call, I know you are our representatives, and I know that you will vote in favor of saving lives, while bought politicians may vote against it. When I last checked, I was told that we have more representatives than politicians. This resolution will tell. Thank you.
Thank you. Ashar Atta. Ashar Atta.
Good evening, and thank you very much, councilpersons, for giving me the opportunity to speak here. So I speak here as a Muslim, as a citizen of United States, as a citizen of New York State, and as a community member here. And I also speak here as a father. Professionally, I'm a man of numbers. I'm a statistician. So I'd like to draw your attention to some numbers, some very small numbers, and for helping us understand the scale of the devastation that's going on in Gaza. The Gaza Strip is 141 square miles. Schenectady County is 209 square miles. So we can imagine that Gaza is within Schenectady. It is a small part of Schenectady. Now imagine, until December, as of October to December, 229,000 bombs coming over this 141 square mile area. Just imagine around you, over a period of 2 to 3 months, 29,000 bombs. This is why we are asking for a ceasefire. All the rhetoric apart, this is why it needs to stop. The next number I'm going to talk to you about is a number that actually, or an incident that stopped entire America. It's a number that made the comedians stop their show and talk about it, which was the Sandy Hook crisis. Everyone who is a father, grandmother, grandfather knows, can feel the pain of loss of life of children. The number of kids, again, as of December, 13,000 kids over a period of about 150 days. If you do the math, it comes down to about 80 to 90 kids a day. That's 3 to 4 Sandy Hooks every day. 3 to 4 Sandy Hooks happening every day. This is precisely the reason we want ceasefire, and we want it now. Thank you very much for taking up the resolution.
Thank you. Thank you. Frank Wicks. Frank Wicks.
Start by noting I'm neither Palestinian nor Israeli. I have no personal involvement with either side. If the Palestinians were doing to the Israelis what the Israelis are doing to Palestinians, I would be up here defending the Israelis. I support the ceasefire and kind of the future dream of Einstein, that a single state there with Jews and Palestinians living together in peace and cooperation. But meanwhile, let's see here. Again, 2 weeks ago I was here. I had my Jewish friend Larry on one side and my Muslim friend Muhammad on the other side, and we, as humans, we saw everything the same way. Now probably the biggest lie is that Israel is only trying to defend itself. A month before, Prime Minister Netanyahu was at the United Nations with a map of the future of Israel showing no Palestine. The only way that can happen is by killing every Palestinian or by displacing them. This required United States weapons and support, which we've provided. Now with second thoughts about it, we're providing it and we're getting told it's none of our business how it's getting used. So where we stand right now is the best we can do is right now a ceasefire. Again, that doesn't address the forced starvation. So the ceasefire ought to be the minimum right now. Stopping the weapons ought to come next. And I guess the people of Schenectady, I think the good people of Schenectady should have no problem supporting this. And I guess, sometime in the future, I think the Israeli leaders and the Israeli army forces, committing the war crimes ought to be tried in an international tribunal with the support of the United States and the good people of Schenectady. Thank you.
Thank you. Layla Kafaga?
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, okay. Thank you for having us tonight. You've listened to a lot of voices, and I appreciate that. So my name is Layla Kafaga. I'm a resident and a local business owner. I stand here a little confused how people can say they want peace, but oppose a ceasefire. When you oppose a ceasefire, you're standing with occupation, you're standing with oppression, and you stand with killing 32,000 individuals in 170 days. You stand with starving 2.2 million citizens of Gaza, half of which are children, 50% are children. You prioritize 100 hostages over 2.1 million lives and over 10,000 Palestinian hostages that no one has ever seemed to mention that Israel has captured within the past 170 days. You stand with killing my family and my people. I'm not going to stand here and give you guys a 75-year history lesson. What I'm going to say is I'm sick to my stomach seeing my people carpet bombed daily, starved to death, and massacred in one of the most modern live stream genocide that we've ever seen, and the world leaders are just sitting back. This is not just an international affair. I disagree with prior statements. This is a local issue. It starts local. Everything starts local because it is closest to the people. Unfortunately, I can't stop my tax money from going and killing my own people. So what I can do is stand here and share my story and share my community's voice, my Palestinian Muslim community's voice that has been severely underrepresented in this area and frankly in this country. I learned from Malcolm X, you can't be so blinded by your patriotism and your religion and culture to see what is wrong and what is happening is wrong. Hurting my people across Gaza Strip is wrong. Killing them, carpet bombing, everything is wrong. Stopping the humanitarian aid going in, and while on the other side, they're celebrating and dancing while starving children. They're on the verge of the worst famine in this century. That is wrong. We, unfortunately, in Palestine, do not have the luxury of special rooms that protect us from our oppressors' aggressions. My father did not have a safe shelter in 1967 when he was forcibly expelled and made a refugee. My mother's family did not have a shelter and a safe room when her family was forcibly removed in the Great Nakba of 1948. I cannot remember, and I'm sure many Muslims here also agree, we can't remember a Friday prayer that a police officer was not present. That is our norm since probably 2001. Don't quote me on that, but that's how it felt. We don't know a Friday prayer without police presence. Mrs. Pearl said earlier, no matter who is at my door, you help them. This body represents Schenectady, the deep diversity and resilience of what this city stands for. I am painfully used to my voice not being represented by elected officials, and I hope this body will finally represent my people's voice. And on the day that Albany Common Council passed the ceasefire resolution, we were there, majority of us were there, and a council member stood up and thanked us for opening his eyes to the other side of the story. There's three sides to every story, right? There's always the truth. You guys can use your eyes and go read on the history and read up on everything. But as of right now, a ceasefire tells us that you care about our community and you care about peace. So please, do not keep repeating history. Let's learn from history and do the right thing and giving the oppressed a voice. Thank you for your
Thank you. Jamaica Miles.
Okay, we're going to leave it. Lila Watson said, if you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let's work together. Doctors Without Borders, Amnesty International, the International Court of Justice, which found in its initial ruling that the allegation by South Africa that Israel was engaged in genocidal actions in Gaza was plausible and that action had to be taken to avoid a genocide. UNICEF, Euromed Rights, Human Rights Watch, and United Nations Human Rights, just some of the groups and organizations that call for a ceasefire. Someone said to me recently that they feel that if they do or do not say very specific things, that they will be judged to be different than how they see themselves. I've thought about this deeply. Who are we can be seen in our words and our actions. Therefore, your words, or the absence of them, do carry weight. Who are we if we are silent to injustice? Who are we if we turn a blind eye? We are complicit. The loss of Israeli life on October 7th is heartbreaking. To those who have been impacted by the death or kidnappings, I humbly share my deepest condolences and a wish for the safe return of those still remaining. That one day was a painful loss. Since that day, we have seen the relentless, disproportionate, and dehumanizing attack on the Palestinian people in Gaza, thinly veiled as an operation to free the hostages. When there was a temporary ceasefire, both hostages held by Hamas and political prisoners held by Israel were released, but not all. What followed was the continuing bombardment by the state of Israel of schools, hospitals, churches, mosques, universities, historical sites, and residential areas, as well as putting back in prison people they had previously released. The death toll in Gaza currently stands at more than 30,000, 31,000, 32,000, because the number is bigger right now than it was when we started. Approximately 70% of them being women and children, journalists murdered and arrested, and a man-made famine that has consumed the lives of children and increases as we debate whether or not the Palestinian people are worthy of food, water, shelter, electricity, or medical care. A ceasefire is necessary for all of those things to end the bloodshed for everyone. Dr. King, known for being quoted in these walls and in this country, spoke out adamantly against war, racism, and capitalism. He was highly criticized for his opposition to Vietnam War. It didn't stop him. But King knew what many of us claim, yet not all of us stand up to do. It is always the right time to do what is right. The right thing to do in this moment is to stand on the side of history that honors all life and speaks against the ongoing genocide, which has been supported by US dollars. Our resources have been used for the death and destruction of Palestinian people, while right here there is a need for food, shelter, healthcare, and more. Instead of investing in helping people in need, our resources have been used to create a wider gap internationally of people in need, people suffering, people marginalized, destroying instead of building, making millions unsafe. Let us not be silent and complicit to a global cry for justice. The Irish were honored in these very halls 2 weeks ago. Let's stand with Ireland, who for St. Patrick's Day declared that Ireland will always stand with Palestine and called for an immediate ceasefire. As a growing number of cities across the U.S. do, let us too send a clear message to Muslim, Jewish, and Palestinians that it is safety for all, not just for some. A ceasefire resolution in Schenectady does that. If this body does not believe the loss of life at this scale and the ongoing siege is worthy of your attention, then what is necessary for it to matter to you?
Thank you. Sean Young. Sean Young. No? Okay. Oh, okay. Sean Young.
Good evening, everyone. I was outside watching this live. Man, I heard so much tonight. I heard so much from so many, and clearly, to me, this is not just an international issue. This is an issue that impacts every single one of us in this community and everyone that showed up here to speak about their feelings about what's happening in Palestine and Israel's. I feel that it's important for me to speak up on behalf of a ceasefire in Gaza. We have seen day after day indiscriminate bombing of people, of women, of men, of children. I remember, as many of us do, October 7th and what happened to Israelis and the slaughter by Hamas on that people and the kidnapping of so many back into Gaza. and I watched day after day as Israel took vengeance on Gaza and bombed and bombed and bombed that community, including the West Bank, to today where we're at tens of thousands of people that have been killed. We are simply saying, as I stand here, that a ceasefire is necessary for all the things that we want, for peace, for people to have the things they need, for the exchange of hostages, for any kind of diplomatic, I think, moving forward of this issue. A ceasefire has to happen. I'm not here to give a 75-year history, as you've heard so many others speak about. I'm looking at the situation today. We're in March, and we have numbers reaching up to 30,000 plus people killed. And I think that our community, and this is like, once again, not just an international community, our community is responsible for our feelings and our thoughts, and this is what we're doing today. We've brought this to our local leaders. These are the issues that we have. We wanted to share them with you and let you know this is where we stand. We've heard it from both sides of this, from so many people that are passionate and are feeling a lot of pain. You all represent the entire community, and we hope that you're listening with open ears from every single person that spoke up tonight. There's a lot of pain in our community. A ceasefire is not going to cause division. This discussion isn't causing division. This is bringing us together. How else are we going to come together unless we are communicating, having open dialogue with one another? We have to do this. This is important, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mohammed Raya. Mohammed.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mayor Gary McCarthy, Madam Speaker, and other council member for giving me the opportunity to speak here. Before I start, I wanted to read an article posted on CNN on November 8, 2023, An Eyewitness to Genocide. This isn't a propaganda from Hamas. This isn't a statement from Palestinian Authority. This account cannot be smeared by Israeli government and its collaborators. This is an American nurse from Medicine Sans Frontiers speaking of her first-hand experience of being in Gaza. There is no safe place in Gaza, she says. There were children with just massive burns down their faces, down their necks, all over the limbs. They are being discharged of these camps with no running water. There are 50,000, or more than 50,000 people are at camp right now, and only 4 toilets. And the children, they have these fresh open wounds and partial ambulations. So I encourage everyone to watch this interview in CNN. It was posted on November 8, 2023. My name is Riyadh, and I'm a resident of Schenectady, and I moved here about two and a half years ago from Brooklyn, New York City. I used to live in Borough Park in Brooklyn, and which is a heavily Jewish neighborhood. I can tell you, most of my then Jewish neighbors don't support what is happening in Gaza right now, and they want a ceasefire. I chose Schenectady because it is peaceful, people love peace, and apart from many other great things, a lot of families been moving here because people are very friendly, they want peace. So I do not want my children to grow up seeing and witnessing what is happening in Gaza. Many of us might have a question on how and why this war was started. Well, we all know the answer, but it's not about how it was started or whose fault it was. This is a long debate. Palestinian people have been suffering for many years and they are forced out of their home for 75 years or close to 80 years. So like I have mentioned earlier, this is a long debate, and we do not want to go to that debate. What we want is very simple, just a ceasefire, so that aid such as medical and food supplies can get into Gaza. I'm asking our fellow Jewish community, if it was other way around, and would Jewish people, wouldn't they want a ceasefire? If they were the one that got killed by the other side? Of course they would, right? So why I'm asking for a ceasefire in Gaza? The innocent Gaza residents don't deserve to die and be killed like this. Why should they be suffering because of someone else? We need to think about it. I'm fasting for about 11 and 13 years today is the 5th fast that I was fasting, and I just broke my fast here with a date. But those people in Gaza, the children, the women, they have been like fasting for months, days, months, if not years, especially since October 7th. They have very, very limited food. There's no aid being got into Gaza. So I do not want my children to suffer like this and to go through like this. I don't think so any of us here would want to see our children go through this as well. So if you don't, I'm asking and requesting you, your honorable chair, to pass a resolution for a ceasefire in Gaza. This is the least we can do for our future generation. And I'm sure none of us want to see our future generation to see what is happening in Gaza, and by waking up every day to see the people, the children, the innocent children and women, they are being killed in Gaza for no reason.
I need you to summarize, sir.
Albany County, thank you. Albany County and many other neighboring county have already passed a resolution for a ceasefire in Gaza. So I'm asking you and requesting our beloved Schenectady City Council to join them and pass this resolution for ceasefire. Thank you so much.
Thank you. For the last time, I'm going to call Ramia Salah, if you're here. If not, I have no one else signed up to speak for the public comment of city business, so I declare this public comment closed. This time, any miscellaneous business of this council? Miscellaneous business of the council. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam President. Appreciate everyone coming out tonight, and understand the level of emotion that's attached to that. And again, we all hope that things will be different and that peace will prevail in the end. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay. Was there a council member that wanted to speak? Okay. What is your name, sir? Oh. Oh, Peter, okay. Let's see. It looked like Peter Cook, who already spoke. Let's see. Peter Looker, yes, here you are. Crossed out, but here you are. I apologize for that. We had a lot of duplicates.
Thank you. I just want to say that I speak from a personal, moral, practical, human perspective. I was taught "thou shalt not kill" when I was growing up in church. I took peace studies in college. If I'm in a bar with two guys fighting, I will step in and say, "Hey guys, what's the matter?" and try and break it up. Rarely do they get anything seriously done there. I would not give them one a knife and another one a gun. 55 years ago, I decried the killing of innocent people in Vietnam, and these hundreds of thousands of innocent Vietnamese died, and I don't think that brought peace to Vietnam. I decried the September 11th attack. I asked my governor, Schumer and Clinton at the time, my senators, not to attack Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria and Yemen. They ignored my request and actually had me arrested for trying to talk to them. And over 100 people were killed for every one death on September 11th, and peace is still not obtained there. I decry the October 7th attack by Hamas. I also decry the killing of 100 innocent Palestinian children by Israeli military for every single one killed on October 7th, 100 to 1. Gandhi said peace is not the target, peace is the way. I ask that all moral and practical people call for a permanent ceasefire now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Truly, is there anyone else whose name I did not call that signed up to speak? Because we did have a lot of duplicates that we crossed out. Okay. With that, then I declare this public comment closed. Really closed. We've heard from, there's no business from the council members. We've heard from the mayor. I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I know that everyone is very passionate about their particular position in this. And we've heard a lot tonight from everyone that came to speak. So we appreciate you coming and coming out. I know that we did receive an email, council members, from Dr. Shakima. Yes. And I did respond. And so my particular position is this, is that if there's going to be a conversation, then all voices need to be in the same room having a conversation on both sides of it, as opposed to us just hearing individually and then moving that forward. So the doctor asked us for a meeting. I personally said that I am willing to have that meeting and attend that meeting. I'm not willing to call that meeting. I'm willing to attend that meeting, provided both sides of the people on both sides of the issue are present, because hearing a one-sided discussion is not helpful. So that's where I am right now with that. I, again, appreciate you all for coming out. And again, there is no resolution currently before this council, but thank you for coming tonight and for hearing your voices heard. And with that, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. Second. Okay, motion by Mr. Mudaveran, second by Mr. Mancini. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Have a good night.
The organizations I'm involved with wants to do a 5